The Oregon Ducks may have a Heisman candidate at quarterback if he wins the starting job this spring. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We're going to take a look at the Oregon Ducks spring football version as they get ready for the Big Ten. We'll have the latest news of the day, including EA Sports and a lot of great tweets. So be sure to subscribe if you don't mind and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. We would appreciate it. Dan Lanning and the Ducks. They're expecting a big year, and it begins with their spring game at Autzen Stadium, April 27th. We've been previewing all the Big Ten teams as they get ready for spring football. We're the first ones to kind of jump on it here, so we're proud of that. There are two things at play here. The Ducks want to show the Big Ten who's boss once they roll in and arrive this season, and they want to rub everybody's faces in it by going a step further and winning a national championship. And they might be good enough to do both. Frankly, they got a lot of people's attention last year when they went 12-2. Those two losses were two squeakers to Washington. That's it. That was a good football team last year. And, of course, we all know Washington made it to the national championship to lose to Michigan. So these lofty expectations they have are real. But it's not often that a team has expectations like this and at the same time going to be breaking in a new quarterback with all this going on. Now, Bo Nix, who reinvented himself at Oregon when he transferred from Auburn a couple of years ago, was phenomenal. Now he's on his way to the NFL. And, he was great. 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's a phenomenal ratio. He threw for 4,500 yards and completed 77% of his passes. Those are going to be tough numbers to replace. I don't care who's back there. Those were great numbers. So Dan Lanning has some things to figure out, and one of the first things he's got to figure out is quarterback. They realize that they're a good team, but they couldn't risk giving the keys to the car to some unknown entity or some young guy at the bottom of the roster that's going to get his chance. They just recruited. They need some able-bodied quarterbacks, and they landed not one but two. Dillon Gabriel comes from Oklahoma, and 5-star recruit Dante comes from UCLA. Gabriel, in my opinion, appears ready to go. Threw for 3,600 yards and 30 touchdowns for the Sooners. And in Moore's first year at UCLA, he struggled, but he did show some signs that he could play. So Dan Lanning has those guys in camp, ready to go. Regarding Moore at UCLA, his best game was probably his second game for the Bruins early. Now, keep in mind, this is as a freshman, his first game. He rolls in there. It was a 35-10 win on the road at San Diego State. He threw for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. But he had his struggles also. Had a 3-interception day versus Oregon State. And again, he was a freshman. Lots of ups and downs. Meanwhile, I think because of this, Lanning is going to kind of look at him as not a project, but a guy that he doesn't have to have ready to go right away. Although he's athletic, very athletic. We'll talk about this a little bit. But I think Dan Lanning's plan is right now for Gabriel to come in. Best case scenario, he comes in, lights it up. They win some championships. And with Big Ten championship and the national championship in his last year of eligibility, and heads off to the NFL. Meanwhile, then Moore will have another year under his belt. He can come back. He can lead the Ducks into next year under Dan Lanning, and that's his succession plan. So be it. Might even be able to play a little bit this year too. Remember, you can play up to 4 games without losing your red shirt eligibility. Or things get really, really interesting in spring football and summer camp with the Oregon football team. Maybe Moore is really athletic and gifted enough to actually fight for this job. If he really is that good, then it's a win-win situation for the Ducks. There's also the possibility that Moore, while backing up Gabriel, again, just plays 4 or less games, keeps his red shirt, moves on. And I actually think that is the more likely scenario here, barring injury, of course. Anything we say, barring injury. So let's not steer too far from Gabriel. He might be the perfect quarterback for offensive coordinator Will Stein's system when you think about it, outside of the experience and productive stats. He can move. He's accurate. When things fall apart, he can extend a play a little bit. There's even some early Heisman talk around Gabriel surrounding his name. Let's think about this for a minute. We're sitting here building up Oregon and what they could do. And if they make a run at a Big Ten championship and or a national championship and you're the quarterback, you're going to be in the Heisman conversation. So the possibility is there. While he was at Oklahoma, he threw for over 400 yards 3 times last season. He threw 5 touchdown passes in 2 different games. And in addition to his 30 passing touchdowns, he rushed for 12 more. So multiple threat. His greatest game came against West Virginia when he threw for 423 yards, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions, and he rushed for 3 more touchdowns and 50 yards. Yeah, do the math. That's 8 touchdowns in 1 game. The Oklahoma record. It's pretty good. Maybe you can do some of that at Oregon. He had a quarterback rating of 208.4 that day and a QBR of 96.7. More consistent stats like that in the Big Ten. Let's face it, going to be harder to come by. But if he can reach close to that level with any kind of consistency whatsoever, I'd say then look out. Look out. They have themselves something there at Oregon. Also, looking ahead, the Ducks' schedule is pretty interesting as always. You Duck fans out there know that they start August 31st versus Idaho. There's the week 3 trip to Corvallis to play a very motivated and somewhat jilted Oregon State team. That's for sure. Then in week 4, of course, the Big Ten opener at the Rose Bowl at UCLA. And I'm like you. It still sounds weird to say Big Ten opener, Rose Bowl, UCLA, but it's here. These are Big Ten teams now. Of course, then the Big Ten home opener in Eugene is October 5th. So they got to wait all the way to October 5th before they have a home Big Ten game at Oregon. And it's the Michigan State Spartans. And, of course, that's interesting because they're led by Jonathan Smith, who used to be at their rival Oregon State. And now this is his first team at Michigan State, and they're coming to play at Oregon. So there's that motivation involved in that game as well. But let's not look too far ahead because the Ohio State Buckeyes come into Eugene on October 12th. And I know if you're a Ducks fan, I don't even have to mention that game. You've already got that one circled on the calendar. There's no question that you do. I mean, it's feasible. It's feasible that when that game happens, it could be a number 1 versus number 2 situation. Both are going to go into the season ranked in the top 2, 3, or 4. And if they're still undefeated, there could be a 1 versus 2. It really could. I hope so. It'll be fantastic. So you got that coming up. And if that's not enough, then Oregon has the date at the Big House first weekend of November. Something to look forward to. So I can't wait. How about you? I'd love to hear from you, Oregon fans, and your thoughts on the quarterback situation, spring football. Again, the spring game is April 27th. It'll be here sooner than you think. They got to get their 15 practices in. Those are going to start pretty soon, and then they got the spring game. So a lot going on at Oregon, a lot of excitement, a lot of confidence, and a lot of expectations for this football team this year. But again, I'll go back to the point I made at the top. Rarely do you have a team ready to go to that next level, but yet you got a bit of a question mark, a brand new guy at quarterback. That doesn't happen very often. That doesn't mean that they can't be successful there. I think there are things in place here where Oregon can be very successful. But again, we'd love your thoughts. You can hit us up on X at Twitter at Talk Big Ten, number 10. comments on YouTube. And don't forget our website, scrolling here on the bottom, talkbig1010.com. And while you're there, pick up yourself some shirts or hats or pennants from your favorite team. We got them all right there on our website. In addition to Oregon and what they did this year in bringing in a new quarterback and trying to get things going for this upcoming football season, there were a couple other teams in the Big Ten that tried to upgrade at the quarterback position through the portal as well. We'll look at that. And we have an update on the EA Sports College Football 25. It was announced this past week that it's going to happen. And kids are opting in, student athletes are opting in. We'll have all the details on to what extent all that is coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, a whole bunch of stuff is on there. For tonight in the NBA, I would take the Mavericks, take the over on the Mavericks and the Cavs. That one will fly past the over. I say the Celtics beat the 76ers. Remember, Joel Embiid's out and the Celtics are hot as a firecracker. And I like the Bulls at home over the Pistons, but who doesn't? All right, so we got that. Those are my tips for tonight. You can check that out at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. And if it's not your first listen, it should be. So come on by and join us on a regular basis. But especially you everydayers out there, thank you very much. We never take you for granted. We always appreciate it. It's why we do this. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe if you don't mind. That helps us out. It helps you out. It's free. Just a click of a button and that's it. No other information needed and nothing like that. You can subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And once again, don't forget to check out our website, talkbig1010.com. Let's get into it here. The Oregon Ducks, they're not the only team in the Big Ten to use the portal to shore things up at the quarterback position. In fact, there was a mad scramble across the whole country by a lot of teams that did just that. And it seemed that the days of developing quarterbacks, it's over. It is quickly coming to a close. There's too much pressure to win now. There's no, I don't want to say a honeymoon period, because even coaches that have been there for a while, they have one down year, all of a sudden they're in trouble. Coaches no longer seem to have the luxury of a bad year or just the down year or a regroup year as younger underclassmen develop into real football players. In fact, coaches I hear from say they love to develop players. That's largely why they got into coaching. You take a kid, you recruit some skinny little kid out of high school, 18 years old, you bring him in, maybe you redshirt him, you hit the weights, you work at practice for a couple of years, he finally cracks some playing time his second or third year. The following year, he's a starter, and boom, maybe you even have an NFL player on your hands by the time all these years have gone by. That doesn't happen anymore. Not only are the coaches not given the time to develop a young player, many fear that they'll be developing this kid for somebody else later. Either the coach will get fired and not be around to see the fruits of his and the player's labor, or that player will transfer out and go play somewhere else after you developed him. It's happening all the time. It's part of the deal. That being said, a couple schools to talk about. Of course, we all know Ohio State. They really can't afford to wait for any of their 2 5-star freshmen, Aaron Nolan and Justin Sane, to develop, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll play freshman year. Can't take that chance, though. And Ryan Day can't anyway. So, and if it works out, great. If they take a year or whatever, Ryan Day can't afford that. Ryan Day has to win and win big, and he's got to do it now. And maybe one of them will be a rare freshman sensation, but in the meantime, they go and get a guy like Will Howard. Will Howard from Kansas State comes to Columbus with the experience and size I'm not sure how accurate he is, but I go back to he has a lot of experience. And look, it was a fight for him because it looked like Ohio State wasn't going to get anybody in the portal. Like they couldn't get anybody to come. Will Howard was going to go to Southern Cal. Then he saw that Miller kid throw for 6 touchdowns, and he's like, I'm not going there. Let me go somewhere else. We talked about this in our podcast on Friday. Go back and check it out. Lockdown Big Ten. By the way, all of our podcasts are archived by school and also by chronological order on the website, talkbig10number10.com. But back to this. You know, when you look at Will Howard at Ohio State and with Chip Kelly coming in there to call the plays, frankly, I just told you that Will Howard isn't really that accurate of a passer. He's a good runner, strong player. But if Chip Kelly's your offensive coordinator, you're not going to throw the ball a lot. Maybe all you got to do is hand off the ball. You got Travion Henderson coming back. That's exciting for Buckeye fans. Quinshon Judkins is also there. Plus, Howard can run the ball himself. And I think given his strength and whatnot, it's going to be a real factor in goal line situations for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So that was that situation. Jonathan Smith. He's the brand new guy. Unlike Ryan Day, who's been there, feels like he needs a shot in the arm to get back to the top. Jonathan Smith, brand new. But Jonathan Smith, a couple of things at play here. He goes to Michigan State. He doesn't want to start over at quarterback with his new team. So he gets Aiden Childs to come with him from Oregon State and come to East Lansing. Now, this is a case where Smith has already put in some time with Aiden Childs. He's already been developing him. And instead of wasting it or walking away from it, it's going to bring him with him. This is the kid he's been working on. I'm going to bring him with me to Michigan State. Kind of a different storyline, if you will, than what we talked about with some other players and other coaches. But this is something that, you know, he didn't want to leave behind all that effort. Let's reap some of the rewards at Michigan State, just a different location. So it brings him along. I'm not sure what the future holds at Oregon State, by the way. Had Aiden Childs stayed, they got no conference. They're the Pac-2 now. So I think this is a win-win situation for both the player and the coach. Different scenario, but still the transfer portal, very big, very important at quarterback for some of these Big Ten schools we've been talking about today. Also, you gamers out there, by now you've heard that EA Sports will be releasing College Football 25, complete with player images. Now that we've settled like 2 decades worth of lawsuits, and now name, image, and likeness is now NCAA legal, a legal way to pay players for their images. So the deal is the way it was set up to 85 players per team are eligible for payment. Now that comes out to about 11,000 players. Each will be paid $600. Plus, they'll get a free copy of the game, which is worth about $70. And through this past weekend, up to 5,000 student athletes, football players, opted in. They want, I want my image in there. I want to be in the game, and I want to get paid for it. So I expect that number to climb. That's just the first weekend. Virtually half of college football is opted in. Money aside, kids like video games these days, and I find it hard to believe that an athlete wouldn't want his friends back home playing a video game with their team, but they're not on it. I mean, it'd be cool to be in a video game. So it's kind of a status symbol with them and their peers. So you would do it, right? I would. So they're doing it. All right, I'll look at some hoops tonight, Tuesday night. We got in the men's, we got Wisconsin at Indiana. That's a 7:00 game at Peacock. Don't expect a lot of shots to be made in this game. I expect a little lower scoring game. Indiana flat out struggles from the 3. And while Wisconsin was having its struggles here the past several weeks, they haven't been able to hit their shots either. So there might be a damaged rim or two by the time we get done with this thing. But a very important game for both schools, Wisconsin at Indiana, 7:00 tonight on Peacock, followed by Penn State at Iowa at 9:00 on the Big Ten Network. And then the women's the women's game, number 14, Indiana at Northwestern. That's the 7:00 game on Big Ten Network. So doubleheader, women's, men's doubleheader on the Big Ten Network with Indiana, Northwestern women, followed by Penn State and Iowa on the Big Ten Network, the men's. And then over on Peacock, standalone, Wisconsin at Indiana. Men's 7 o'clock. There you have it. So you Hoosier fans out there, you can flip back and forth at 7 o'clock. You got Peacock to watch the men and back to the Big Ten Network to watch the women at the same time. How about that? Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube called Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts at Locked On, plus our national shows like Locked On Big Ten. It's on there as well, so check it out, Locked On Sports Today. And as soon as this is done, you can watch another episode of Locked On Big Ten and or go check them out as well. Locked On Sports Today. All right. Coming up, we have Tuesday Tweets. This is one of my favorite things that we do each and every week. It is coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Game Time. This is where you go on your phone to get your tickets. If you're in charge of getting tickets, go to Game Time and all the stress goes away. You don't have to worry about buying tickets for the next big event. And by the way, it doesn't have to be sports. It can be theater, comedy, what kind of show, any sports, shows, everything right on Game Time. If there are tickets, you can find it on Game Time. It's fast and easy. Great way to buy tickets for everything. Killer last minute deals. And they also have all-in prices, views from your seat, which I always like before you buy it. The best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Their lowest price guarantee, they have that. They have event cancellation protection, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about anything. You see the view from your seat, your all-in prices. You got the exact price. There's nothing added on later that you find out about. And you just 2 taps and you got your tickets. Game Time has deals right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. If you live out on the West Coast, Los Angeles, can't get to an event on time. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, it is time for Tuesday Tweets. By the way, follow us on Twitter at TalkBig10, 10, and follow us. I'll follow you back. And maybe we'll use your tweets if they're good. Let's put them on the screen here. And if you're on audio only, I will describe them to you along the way. Hey, this is from @Carla Jenkins. She's one of our most loyal listeners and viewers on Locked On Big Ten. She's a huge Buckeyes fan. And she says she has a question. Would Ohio State block Florida State getting into the Big Ten if they were to ever decide to do so? The Buckeyes are able to get Floridians from Chris Carter to Jeremiah Smith without direct competition. Floridians, Chris Gamble and Joey Bosa won Ohio State championships. This is something no one is talking about. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? It's an interesting thing. I think right now, Ohio State is at the point where they can go anywhere in the country, regardless of whether a Florida State's in the Big Ten or not, and recruit there. The bigger scare, if you will, is the fact that Mike Norvell at Florida State's got them rolling right now. I mean, 5th ranked team of the country last year, big fat new contract extension. Kids are going there. I just think no matter whether Florida State is in the ACC or the Big Ten or the SEC, Norvell's got it going right now. And he's a threat all by himself, regardless of what conference he is. But good question. Thank you very much for that. Here is a tweet from @Iowa Women's Basketball. We always talk about, it's a picture of the new logo on the Iowa floor. We always talk about how Caitlin Clark shoots the logo threes or threes from the logo, meaning center court or what have you. She's got her own logo now. Clark 22 or 22 Clark, however you want to look at it. They put it in, it's the spot where she hit her record-breaking 3-pointer last week to become the all-time leader in women's scoring in NCAA history. And she was told about it right before they put it out there, and she didn't see it until warm-ups before the last game. And she commented how that it looks further back than she remembers it. And not us. I mean, that thing was a deep 3-pointer, but that's a cool way to mark the floor. I like that very much. Here's another one from at Iowa women's basketball. It's another picture of Caitlin Clark in action. They were wearing the pink and white unis this weekend. Triple-double. It says just another day at the office. 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists. Her 16th triple-double of her career. Hashtag Hawkeyes. Also, here we have from at Barstool MSU. It is a picture of freshman Xavier Booker on a milk carton because he's missing. Have you seen him? There's been a lot of criticism on Tom Izzo for not playing him. He's 6'11". He's young. He's athletic. And by the way, he did start this weekend, 7 points in 17 minutes. So there's that. But a lot of frustration boiling. People want to see more of him at Michigan State. Let's see what else we got here. This is from at Ben Scott Stevens. It is a picture of football players dunking at Nebraska. What? Yeah. 5 Nebraska football players put on a dunk contest during halftime of the Huskers basketball game versus Minnesota. Jeremiah Charles was the winner. And it also says here that and all of it was better than the NBA's dunk contest. And I would have to agree with that. It's a good video. Go out, check it out. Here's from at Fight On Rusty. It says, yo, what? It is a picture of Bo Nix in an Oregon uniform. And a subtweet from Pete Thamel. It says, Bo Nix is exploring another year of eligibility after receiving disappointing draft grades. Scouts believe Nix to be a check-down merchant. He would be the oldest quarterback in college football for his second year in a row. Look, Bo Nix had a phenomenal year this year at Oregon. And mark my words, he might even be a first-round pick. He'll definitely go by the second round. But Bo Nix is going to be an NFL quarterback. Here's from at IU Barstool. And why are we showing the Warriors? Well, it's Trace Jackson Davis in the NBA, just making plays. Nothing new, really. Hashtag IU basketball. This is a little 30-second video of a block on one end, break on the other, and he puts it in there for the dunk. So that's good that they like him. Trace Jackson Davis, they like him there at Golden State. Things are working out. Here's from at Casual Big Ten. Big Ten teams, it's a list. Most recent Sweet 16 appearance. It's been a while for some. Michigan State. Think of all the criticism Tom Izzo is taking right now. Well, they made the Sweet 16 last year. How soon we forget. And Michigan, Juwan Howard with all the heat he's taken. They haven't made it. They made it in 2022, but they didn't make the tournament at all last year, and doesn't look like they'll make it again this year. Purdue, also 2022. Well, when you lose to Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round, you don't get to the Sweet 16. Wisconsin, 2017. Indiana and Maryland, 2016. And Ohio State last made the Sweet 16 in 2013. Then we jump back a little bit. It's been since 2005 for Illinois, 2001 for Penn State, and then we're in the 1990s for Iowa and Minnesota, and then Rutgers, 1979. And then it says Nebraska and Northwestern have never made the Sweet 16. You know what? I'm going to throw this out there. Nebraska's been kind of my sleeper team all year. I've really enjoyed watching them play. And with Boo Buie and Northwestern, you never know. Maybe both of those teams break that streak this year. Maybe. Here's from at Barstool, Ohio State. It's the Dale Bonner three-pointer at the buzzer against Michigan State. The video, don't let the Buckeyes get hot, everybody. That's a warning to everybody else. And also, here's Ben Scott Stevens. Last Sunday, and this is more Ohio State, in his debut as Ohio State's interim coach, Jake Diebler led his Buckeyes to an upset of number 2 Purdue. 7 days later, Ohio State ends the 17-game road skid in East Lansing with a shot at the buzzer, and Jack Diebler's reaction is priceless. Very good week for him and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Maybe he plays himself into getting that job. So that is it. Hope you enjoyed that. Our Tuesday tweets, obviously every Tuesday, a lot of fun. Send them to us, and if they're good, we'll get them out there. Or we'll find them one way or the other. Always appreciate that. Also, don't forget to find me on Twitter, X, at TalkBig1010. Don't forget our website, TalkBig1010.com. And, of course, on YouTube, we'll take your comments as well. Be sure to subscribe before you go, if you don't mind, and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it is available each and every day. Plus, don't forget our Locked On Sports Today sister channel, if you will. It's part of Locked On. Once you're done watching us, watch another one of us, or go check out Locked On Sports Today. We may even be over there when you flip over. So appreciate that. In the meantime, can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. More football, spring football previews of your favorite Big Ten teams, plus the latest on hoops and everything else going on. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Thanks for watching.